Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about a subject, a moment, an experience that is one of my least favorites, and I'm sure many of you have felt this. It is that moment when somebody says, you know what, this just is not going to work out. Whether it is in a relationship or it's in your career, wherever, it is gut-wrenching, and I've had many of these moments to get and understand all the pieces of why something like this would happen. And it is tied to something that is so important for us to heal. Why it's so gut-wrenching is because what is creating this is so wrong. So let's dive into it. Let's start from the beginning. Obviously, if you know me, I talk about how this is an inside-out world, meaning everything that you do to yourself or believe about yourself is put on your electromagnetic field that goes around your body. This field creates all matter, which means every situation, circumstance in your life is created by your electromagnetic field, the beliefs you have about yourself and the things that you are doing to yourself. And not one situation in your life is not part of this formula. That means everything in your life is created by you, by your electromagnetic field. So when something like this happens, we have to ask, what would cause somebody to do this? And I'm going to give you 3 different ways of wording it because sometimes the wording is very important. But when someone says, I just don't feel like this is going to work out, that is tied to you actually saying you don't feel like it's going to work out in some other area of your life. Now, remember, if you're getting in reflection, is what I call it, the trigger moment in your relationship, you will not feel like it's not working out there. It will be about some other area of your life, career, financial. Now, again, if it's showing up in your career, it might be about your relationship, financial, family, whatever it is. It will not be in the area you're getting the trigger. So in some area of your life, you're saying you don't feel like it's going to work out, which means you're doubting your abilities to do something. That's another way you could word it. You're doubting your ability to conquer the challenge that is in front of you. Another way of looking at it is you don't believe that you are spiritually gifted enough or strong enough. And all 3 of these wordings are completely false. If there is a challenge in front of you, you have the ability to get through it. You are spiritually gifted enough, and it is going to work out. But like we've talked about in actually the episode of going all in on something, when we go all in on something, we are going, yes, I want to learn all of this. And the more we go in on it, the more doubts come up because we are missing knowledge. We're missing understanding about what we're going after. So it can actually cause your doubts to get bigger the more you go all in on something. So if you're going all in on learning about financial and there's a million doubts there, that doubt can actually go in your field and create something happening over in another area of your life. And I've had this happen so many times in my relationships where my partner is like, this isn't going to work out. And it's because I've been healing another area and I'm doubting my abilities over here. But if you tweak it over here, it goes away over here. Again, remember, all matter is controlled by how we treat ourselves or what we believe about ourselves. So we have to get to a place of going, I believe in my ability to do something. I believe I'm spiritually gifted enough and strong enough. I believe that this is going to work out. But again, that can be very difficult when we're learning something and we need to understand all the components. And most likely, the thing we're going after is failing. And you will hear me talk about this all the time because my job is to help you guys realize your value. And failure is such a huge part of getting your value. You actually have to fail to understand pieces to then get components that go and shape your entire existence and help change the world. But how can we, in the moment of learning something, not have this happen? Because that was my whole thing. It's like, oh my God, I know why you're saying this because I'm doing it over here. But how do I stop it from over here? How do I get on board over here that I can conquer this? And there was one thing that stood out to me after many times of this happening and realizing this is a key component to me getting on board with believing in myself. in these moments. And it is understanding the goal. Let me say that again. It is understanding the goal. Most of the time, we have a human want, and then there's the soul want, which means there's a human goal and there is a soul goal. So, for example, let's take somebody who's going to the Olympics. Their human want is, let's just say this is a male. His human want is obviously to win. He's worked many hours. He's put in so much effort to win the medal. And that is the human goal. Now, the soul goal has a whole different other plan. So let's just say he fumbles and it fails miserably. Something happens and it does not go well. That can cause a lot of doubt in ability. I wasn't strong enough. I couldn't conquer this. But what if the soul goal was, this soul was meant to create a supplement that is going to help every human on this planet tap into their like superpower charge of their body. So they have more energy and their brain is firing on all cylinders. And it was because he failed here that got him to realize, I got tripped up because my brain wasn't functioning and X, Y, and Z wasn't happening. And that causes him to then get to realizing he's going to create the supplement. And the supplement is the thing that he conquers the world with. That's the real goal. The human goal is not the right goal. So another example I'm going to go into, just so you can understand what I'm saying, is let's say you own a business and you have no money coming in. And you are like, I'm trying everything and nothing's coming in. And the human is saying, I must be failing. I'm not good at this. My ability to do this is obviously not good because this is not happening, right? The failure keeps happening. If I look in, the soul want is actually to learn leadership embodiment. And if you look at the leadership embodiments, it is perseverance. It is trusting yourself no matter what. It is all these things that you can't get without this happening, without the failure of a business, because you can't get perseverance if you don't actually have to persevere through something. So the soul goal is leadership. The human is, I want money to come through this. And again, going back to the Olympian, they want to win the medal, but the soul is like, we're going to change a million lives with the supplement you come out with after this failure. So there are two totally different goals going on. And I know I've talked about this a little bit, but what I want you to realize is the goal, if you are actually tied to the right goal, if you're aware of your soul goal, there's something that the brain does that actually clicks right into going, oh, I can do that. That I can do. It's the other stuff that scares me. Because when you are tapped into the wrong goal, the doubts is your intuition pretty much saying, I don't know what we're doing here. If you're tapped into the soul goal, your intuition, your body actually connects to it very easily and says, oh yeah, I can do that. That I can do. So whatever failure happens under that, that doesn't matter because these are the things that are going to get me to this. And what's crazy, if you really think about this, is we're sitting around doubting our abilities. But what I want you to realize is your soul goal is a bigger goal. So to doubt our abilities in the smaller thing, that's going to happen. But let's hit the bigger goal. That is going to definitely happen because what I want you to realize is a soul goal is a guarantee. It is absolutely going to happen. It is hands down a guarantee. If you lock into your soul goal and you focus on that, that will happen. It's a non-negotiable. And it comes from a lot of our lifetimes. We have a soul archive of all of our knowledge, everything that we know, what we failed at in other lifetimes, what we need to know in this lifetime. And when we have a soul goal, it means that soul is like, we need to master this in this lifetime. We need this information. We need this understanding. We need this embodiment. And that is a guarantee because that's a soul want. A soul want is, there is no ego tied to that. That is, this is necessary for what we're going to do in this lifetime. So when we tap into that one, when we actually look in and go, this is what I'm going towards, your body intuitively connects to, yeah, I can do that. that I have the capability of doing. But when we're tied to the human goal, it can really wreak havoc on our system. And again, if I look back in my past and the many times that I had partners say, oh, this isn't going to work out, it was because in my mind, I was like trying to conquer Mount Everest in my head, but really I was conquering whatever bigger mountain there is. But the smaller mountain felt too scrambled in my brain because it wasn't the actual goal. The real goal I wasn't aware of at the time. So for me now, any time in my life, I'm constantly looking at what is my soul trying to master right now? And just to be clear, you could be mastering emotional mastery, financial mastery, all the things that I'm putting out, but that might not be the full goal. You might need those components to get the bigger goal. So again, you can be going after something and go, why is this not working? Right? So be careful of that, of flipping something and go, oh, that didn't work. Because I can tell you sometimes you might have to flip 20 things to get the bigger goal, right? The failure, the failure, the failure, and then the bigger goal happens. It's motivation for the bigger goal. So just keep in mind that the things that you are doing are pieces and components of that bigger goal, but it's not the goal. So your career, you might be like, I want this to happen in my career. Well, just know that underneath the surface of whatever you want to happen is so much soul density and value under all of that. And that's really what's going on. So it's so important to look behind the curtain. And I've always said this from day one when I got into, before I even quote unquote got into understanding myself and raising my understandings of the world and whatnot, I always knew there was so much more to be seen in the unseen, like what you can't see with the human eye. And this is no different in the sense of you have a human want and you're going towards that goal and you're doubting all your abilities there. And it's because you're not even connected to the right goal. The minute you connect to the right goal, which again is hidden, it is hidden behind the scenes. And you might be asking, how do we find that? Well, a few things. Obviously, intuition. Intuition. You can see what is going on, but just keep in mind, it's in one of the 8 areas of your life, right? Go listen to that episode if you haven't. One of the 8 areas, and then in that area, there is some sort of emotional mastery. It's always going to boil down to how you want to feel and the skill sets around that. So obviously, if we take the example of the Olympian, he was going to create this supplement. He obviously needed perseverance and not giving up. So that's why he was in this smaller, well, not even small goal, big goal of really working towards a massive goal. He was obviously going to have a company. So being able to show up and do drills every day is going to make a leader in him that he can lead a company. So just know that the smaller things you're working on right now are tied to a much bigger goal. And that is the thing you're going to want to look at. So it's within the 8 areas. It's in one of the 8 areas and it's within it. If you get stuck, feel free to reach out. We can look into that. There is a bigger goal your soul is going towards. And you can find it by looking under like, why do I want this thing? We talk about this in emotional mastery. You can drill down. You can figure out what is the emotional component of the thing that you're wanting. That is a way of finding it. And my iPad just went off. Ding, ding. That is a way of finding it. If you don't have intuition, or you all have intuition, but you're not using it. What I really want to bring up that will help also with this is there's so many times when you're experiencing this that it hits a wound deep down inside of going, I have no value. That's why they're leaving. It ends up being a you problem again. So once we realize that we have this bigger goal going on and this little thing that we actually feels big to us is actually little, we go, that didn't work. Well, it didn't work because it has nothing to do with your abilities. It's because it's a means to get to the bigger goal, which means I want you to start to say, I am choosing for this to happen. I know that sounds crazy, but I cannot tell you how much that reprogrammed my brain to realize that when things went quote unquote wrong, it was my choice, meaning because my soul has this thing in its vision, the things that are going to get in the way of that have to either leave or break or not happen. So I either get the real things that I'm needing, or those things can move out of the way. But I am choosing for this stuff to not work out so that I hit this bigger goal. It is something that sounds so small, but it took me a second to realize, no, this person isn't leaving me because I don't have value. This person's leaving because I chose for this to happen. I chose for this thing to go away, trigger something in me, get pieces, learn about myself, learn knowledge, embody it, and then move on to the next level of my mastery. It is a choice when something doesn't work out. It is fully a choice you are making on a soul level. Now the human might not like it. And that's a whole other thing. And we'll talk about, letting go of the past and and all of that, and knowing, how the human ego might think this is the most important thing. But even what we're talking about today, if you really sink your teeth into this, you will realize, oh yeah, and you'll actually get your human on board with, oh yeah, that goal, that sounds great. I can go towards that. And your human self will not even care about the smaller things not happening or failing or whatnot. But a big piece that helped me make sure that in those moments, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about I must be missing something and that's why this isn't happening. It was I chose for this not to happen so that I could get these other things. So if we go back to the example of the business, not having money, but I'm getting leadership skill sets. Well, of course my soul chose for the money not to happen, because how could I learn perseverance, which is one of the ingredients of leadership, if I didn't have to persevere through something? So I'm choosing for the money not to come in, not that I'm failing at my ability to bring it in. It's I'm choosing to say it's not going to come here. I don't want it to, because I want to gain this other thing. Once I gain this, then it can come, which goes back to my point, believing in self. If you're choosing for this thing not to happen, is it about your ability to do it? No, your ability is actually there. And that is what's crazy. Your ability to make that thing happen is there. And I cannot tell you that I could scream that at the top of my lungs, because that is the behind the curtain thing. Your ability is there. It's just waiting for you to get the other components you want. Once that locks into place, then the thing that your human is wanting, you'll end up getting very easily, because that's not the goal. It's within the goal, right? If the goal is leadership, of course a leader would have money, right? So of course that's going to be in that bracket. So you'll just get it. So it's not about your ability to not be able to do something. It is, what are you actually creating that maybe everything else isn't working out because you're going towards something else, and it has absolutely nothing to do with your ability to do something, or that you're not spiritually gifted enough. It is actually proof that you are, because your goal is bigger than even what your human is asking for. It is more profound than what your human is asking for. And this took me so long to understand about myself, because I had all these bigger goals. My soul had like the perfect genius plan that I couldn't even come up with myself. And trust me, the more you understand this kind of stuff, the more you will go, holy cow, higher self, you have a genius plan. It took me a long time for me to understand that my higher self had a genius plan. My human had its own opinion. I want this, and then we're supposed to be doing this. And why is that not happening? Well, there's a big plan. And my little human self got thrown through the ringer because I kept being like, it must be my abilities to do this. It must be a me problem. And it took me a long time to then get on board and realize that no, I have bigger goals that I'm hitting. I was playing it way too small, and the goals were so much bigger. And the minute I started to intuitively look in and go, oh, this is the goal that I'm going towards, I can get on board with that. Something shifted in me instantly, going, yeah, my abilities can do that for sure. that got me on board with that. And then that little piece of going, that means anything that fails underneath this goal is a choice that I decided to have happen. Because if it didn't happen, I wouldn't get the bigger goal. It would be a distraction. It would stop me from getting the bigger goal. Because again, if we go back to the business example, business starts making money. I'm not persevering through anything. So I don't end up having that embodiment of I can get through anything. I can trust myself no matter what, even if it's failing. Those are ingredients that I'm going to have to get that way. So this week or anytime you are facing this doubt in self that you are going towards a goal and it just keeps failing, I want you to realize in that moment, you are probably not focused on the right goal. If you are ever doubting yourself in your abilities to do something, it is a very clear indication you actually don't know what the goal is. Because the minute you know the goal, you will go, oh yeah, I can do that. It is something that is so connected to a deeper part of you. It is connected to the core essence of who you are. And it is that whole feeling when you hear something and it resonates and you get the chills. It's that same thing. You're like, oh yeah. It is so deeply connected to your core that your doubt of self will not show up. So if you also are experiencing, well, Val, I have doubt everywhere. Well, then obviously you still don't know what the goal is. And the goal is going to be one thing. It's going to be in one area. And again, the minute you get it, you will realize, oh, yeah, I can do that. So keep in mind that moving forward, if you're doubting your abilities to do something, just instantly clock, I don't know the goal I'm hitting, and I need to figure out that goal. It's in one of the 8 areas, and it's within that area. The second thing is to start saying when things fail, then instantly say, I am choosing for this thing to fail. I'm choosing for this thing to walk out of my life. I am choosing for this to happen because you are. On a soul level, you are choosing for this thing to happen. And at first, it might feel like it's doing absolutely nothing, but this tiny little statement has changed how I label myself and my value. When I didn't have this, I kept being like, well, there's something missing in me. When I said, no, I'm choosing for this to happen, I'm actually more valuable, which is why I need this to happen because I'm going towards a bigger thing. That changed my electromagnetic field very differently. It's going to allow you to have the failures and the screw ups without it affecting what you're creating in life. You're going to be able to be messy and be able to play without getting a awful bounce back because of it. When you say I choose for this to happen, then cool. You know, there's nothing negative gets created based off of that statement. It is a huge, huge thing that sounds so small, but it's really the small things that are the most profound things. So trust me when I say this, use this statement moving forward, and your value will never get depleted when you are going on this journey of self-discovery and self-mastery. Thanks so much for joining. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, comment, or share with somebody that you know. I would like to reach and help as many people as possible, and I cannot do that without you, so I appreciate the support.